Hello and welcome to the Cube Talk Show. My name's Joe Barbieri. I'm your host, and this is a money show. We talk about all aspects of money, and today's topic is money mindset, and our guest is Noel Walrond. He's the president of My Dreams Work. Noel, how are you?
Oh, I'm awesome. Powerful.
Very powerful.
Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's a pleasure to have you on. So we were talking about why some people have money and why some people don't.
Right.
So what's your take on that?
Well, there are a number of different circumstances that can create situations where people have wealth or don't have it in a monetary sense. When we were talking about specifically earlier on was that being conditioned for wealth. There was the book, for example, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. When he had studied, he had a chance to meet with Andrew Carnegie, who at the time was the richest man on the planet, with the president of U.S. Steel. They were both fascinated with human performance and wanted to know why is it some people work so hard and yet things don't seem to materialize, and some people, they always seem to be at the right place at the right time, and that's been termed the Midas touch. The Midas touch, right? Everything they touch turns to gold, right? Mm-hmm. So what he found was that after doing this study over 20 years, it was over 2 decades, was that there was in fact a common link. And the book Think and Grow Rich is a synthesis of that study. But one of the core things that he had mentioned was that you only have that which you're in harmony with. Yeah, and another word for harmony is conditioning. And as an example, we were talking about some professional athletes who've made millions of dollars doing what they do, or somebody who somehow they had some kind of a concept and it exploded and they had all this money unexpectedly. And you see many of them, similarly to lottery winners, with not having that much left after a couple of years. And you're wondering, how could you blow 20 million? How could you blow 50 million? How could you blow 1 million? Like how can you blow that kind of money? And apparently it's not that difficult. And for some of them, it wasn't all just squandering. Some of them picked the wrong advisors. And well, how do we go about picking the advisors? Well, there's something has to do with sometimes we don't do due diligence, we don't follow through, we don't ask the right questions, and and all of those things tie into what we've been conditioned for, So the reason why most of us have, as I've been taught, everything that you have or don't have in your material world is a reflection of what's going on in your inner world, and everything is a reflection. So it's great when you're winning, it sucks when you're losing, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the great news is that you can always shift what's going on internally, so you can turn it into a winning game at any given point in time. And God knows I've been through the financial struggle before. I've been through having to deal with collection agencies before. I've been through all of that. I've been through that time too of making 5-10 grand a week running a direct sales office, and so I've seen the ups and downs, but I began to understand that streaks and slumps are internal, and it all starts with you. A lot of times we blame our outside circumstances and environment for what's happening, not understanding that the internal us is what's shifting, because that's not to say that challenges can't emerge, but how you deal with it and how you respond to what takes place dictates whether you have a complete disaster or have something where you can have something that's amazing that comes out of it, right?
Have you encountered in your experience where you thought something was a disaster, but it wasn't?
Well, everything is a matter of perception.
That's right.
Steve Jobs talks about connecting the dots, right? Certainly there have been times, when you wonder, because I was one of those people at one point who worked very, very hard and didn't see the return. And, I've been there, and it's well-meaning, thought reasonably intelligent, you know what I mean, and knowing how to express myself and knowing how to get out there and make things happen. And I would see people who didn't seem to have the same background that I did academically. They did not have necessarily the support, because I had a supportive mom, you know what I mean, who was always there for me through the years. And, and so I had a great environment. I really didn't have any excuse, quite frankly. I mean, I wasn't raised in the ghetto. I didn't come from a rough spot. Not to say that somebody who's raised in a rough spot, in a rough area of town, because we define who we are, not our geography, right? But what's normally deemed as the common excuse for non-performance, I didn't have any of those reasons. And so. And I came from, and my mom was very well-meaning, worked very, very hard, but there were a lot of different concepts she tried that didn't work out the way we'd wanted to, and we'd been, quote-unquote, ripped off by people in the real estate game, somebody who was looking more about their commission as opposed to looking out for the best interest of the client, and my mom ended up paying a heavy price for that years ago, which set us back. So those could be looked at as real challenges or setbacks, but we've grown from those experiences, and we've learned from those experiences. So now we know how to do diligence. Now we know how to check into things. We know how to do our research. And because we know what to look for, when we're making decisions now, we're able to advance that much faster because of what we've learned. But you don't always have to learn from your own personal experience or tragedy. You can learn from other people. There's OPM, which is other people's money, but there's OPE, other people's experience. And so I love to read the biographies of people like a Donald Trump, who was down like billions of dollars, not millions, but billions. That's some people get stressed out over 20 grand in debt. And people jump for less than 100. You know what I mean? So you got somebody who was mentally tough enough to be able to see through one of those types of challenges and look at, well, why did that happen? Where those mistakes happened? Where were the mistakes? And you start studying other people, because most people who've ever made it to any level of anything that we talk about and magnify and glorify today, they've been through their challenges. And so
this is something I've seen in the investment industry. Most traders, I think probably maybe all of them, well, I'd say most traders who are made it very big, they crashed and burned at least once, sometimes multiple times, before they became known as big-time traders, which you never think of when you look at them and they're managing $1 billion and timing the market so well and everything, but they all crashed at some point.
Well, it's interesting, because when you look at Warren Buffett, he doesn't share the same track record as what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I think that Warren Buffett says, if you don't understand the animal, don't invest in it. Mm-hmm. Period. And the challenge is that for a lot of folks, it's become more of a gamble than it is something where there's real science behind it. And when the fundamentals are the fundamentals, that's not to suggest that things can't change. Terrorist attack is a game changer. You know what I mean? It can definitely change what happens in a confidence in a marketplace. There's a number of different factors that can cause it that are out of our control. But I think that still, even when something like a terrorist attack hits, for people who understand what markets are going to get hammered, and that's what they already know where they can also go to invest. I know some people say, well, that sounds terrible. Well, we can complain about gas prices, or you can have shares in Petro-Canada. It's up to you, right? The prices are going up regardless. So at the end of the day, you want to be a shareholder and at least take care of your family and do the things that are great for your family, or you can complain about it. So you get a chance to choose which side of it you want to be on.
So you mentioned the word conditioning.
Yes.
Off the top. So give me an example of what limits people, what type of conditioning people will say to themselves that says, well, I guess I can think of one off the bat. I can't do this. I'm not good enough for that. This is for another class of people, not for me. What do you say to somebody who says that or thinks like that, and you can see the limitation?
You mean like everybody?
Well, it's a lot of people.
All of us have our areas of inadequacies. I don't care what level of performance anybody's on. We're all human, and so we all have areas where we feel feelings of inadequacy in certain areas. What I say is, first of all, stop saying that. The word is an expressed thought, and so what you're doing is expressing what's on your mind, and whatever you're expressing with thought and feeling by law has to manifest, and so it's not just what you say that's manifesting, it's what you feel that brings about the law of attraction. I mean, we won't get into all kind of detail on that today, but what I will go in as far as to say is that when you begin to understand how your mind actually works, and you know that you've got the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the thinking mind or the analytical mind, so you get to pick and choose what you believe and what you think. But the subconscious mind doesn't work that way. It's the emotional mind, And somebody says, "Well, what does this have to do with success and earning an income?" Believe me, when I was listening to Bob Proctor, and I got an opportunity to meet him and get coached and mentored by him, I had no idea how big the inner game is, and how your thought process works with the reflection of everything that you see on the outside. Didn't realize that there is a real connection, and so the subconscious mind is the emotional mind, and also it's where your self-image lives. I'll give you an example of something. Have you ever been to a movie and been emotionally moved by it? Mm-hmm. Well, you know consciously that movie is not real. You know it's lights, camera, action, cut, edit, render, right? Like, then we get it, right? So we know consciously that it's not real, but the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not, because how could you explain having a physiological response to something that you know consciously is not real? Like, are we crazy? Not really, right? Yeah. So, but what happens is that when you're watching that program and you start getting emotionally involved, the conscious mind shuts down, the subconscious mind opens up, and it becomes far more receptive to suggestion. And that's why commercials, companies will pay big money for commercial time, because they know that you're emotionally involved in a state where you're open and receptive to suggestion. And that's why they'll pay millions of dollars for 30 seconds of your attention. It makes sense?
Yes.
Because you get to choose your thoughts. Your thoughts cause your feelings, and your feelings are expressed through your body in terms of results. In terms of your action, and your actions are what produce your results. So how you feel, for example, that person who says, well, you know what, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't come from the right family, I don't have the right connections, I have no history in this. Well, my first recommendation is to first start studying people who who never had the background, who should have never been successful by traditional terms. And there's a plethora of them, so if you actually start reading up on people, and a lot of people read that book, The Power of Now, by Eckhart Tolle, not realizing that this guy was suicidal. You know what I mean? When he came out, he happened to make it out of that feeling of suicide. I'm being suicidal, and he was inspired, and he wrote. And now, of course, international bestseller, hanging out with Oprahs of the world, right? Mm-hmm. And then Colonel Sanders. Some people say, "Well, I'm too old," but Harlan Sanders, the Colonel, he was a senior citizen and again suicidal. Well, not to say we should be encouraging being suicidal to bring about the inspiration. Hopefully, it doesn't have to get to that point. But the idea is that when he came up with the 11 herbs and spices, he got depressed. He was going around trying to sell his idea. People weren't taking to it at first, but then all it took was one person to say yes. Next thing you know, boom. The book Chicken Soup for the Soul. I mean, these guys were noted speakers at the time, but they went to a lot of publishers and nobody took them on. And then one of the gentlemen was on a plane ride, and he sits down. Person has to be sitting beside has a small publishing company, and they decided to take him on. After going to a publishing show they invested and paid to go to, the person who said yes to them was somebody who they least suspected. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I would say to all of those out there who have a dream or have something but don't think that they're good enough, inspiration is an instruction. Whether you call them God, Allah, Jehovah, Jah, Yahweh, Mother Nature, Father Time, the collective conscious, universal mind, whatever term you use to describe the infinite intelligence, that which is around us, you always say when you get an idea that it came to you. Well, came to you from where? You know what I mean? Right? So but what happens when you get inspired, you get excited, you become illuminated, you get enthusiastic, right? And when you get an instruction or an inspiration, even if you don't understand it, act on it. Why not? What do you really have to lose? Steve Jobs said it right during his commencement address. We're all going to die eventually, So when you remember that that's the case and it can happen at any point in time, you really have nothing to lose by trying. What do you have to lose? What's the worst thing that can happen? Nothing. What's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, it doesn't work out. Okay, at least you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to live with the couldas and the wouldas and the shouldas and that kind of stuff, that world is not a world that I would personally, that's a world that would drive you insane. So the idea is that if you've been having questions about whether or not you can actually go ahead and do something, first start going out and hanging out with people who are doers and the people who do perform. Because what you'll find is people who tend to feel that way about themselves tend to hang out with a lot of other people who feel the same way, because birds of a feather tend to flock together. So start creating new associations and start hanging out with people who make things happen, who get things done, who have the level of success that you think is great. Start hanging out with them, because eventually you're going to start, their personality is going to start, and their ideas are going to start rubbing off on you. So that's number one. Number two, start reading biographies of people or watch biographies if you don't want to read. Watch them. There's a biography channel, like this. Tune in and start to see people who've come from challenges that are similar to yours, who've made it happen. People who came up with no money. In fact, a lot of the generation of millionaires you see today, most of them didn't have it when they started. A lot of them started out broke. Mm-hmm. It wasn't handed down from mom and pop. It was, they built this. It got created. So so when you begin to look at those folks and you start going to places where you can start going to different seminars, like we have an event coming up, the Creation Zone, this Saturday, March 24th, at the Ontario Bar Association, and down here in Toronto, and come out to events like that. There's networking events every day, just about every major city in North America. There's networking sessions all the time. There's inspirational events all the time. Go and get plugged in, and start associating, creating new friendships, and developing new partnerships. You never know who you're going to meet, I guess. And the other thing I would say is to people who have had an issue where they've had some questions about whether or not they should do something. Look, at the end of the day, you owe it to yourself to try. You owe it to yourself. And I guess, and really, when you start to try, you're actually doing. Because Master Yoda said there is no try, only do. Right. So, but when you actually start moving towards a thing, things start moving towards you. People, places, and things and situations begin to emerge. And I want to act, and I don't have any experience. Well, the girl who's in the movie Precious, she didn't have any experience either. Next thing you know, she's on the stage being honored, so amongst people giants who've been in the industry for years. The VIP line, there's a lot of room on that side. What's heavy is the room with the people who are trying to sign up for the show. But when you actually if those people who actually go after their dream, it's such a small portion of the population that actually really goes for it. There's a ton of room. There's a ton of room for you. Believe me.
It's very good. What about the idea of expectation? I found with my experience, whenever these things happen, there's no expectation. You might have an end game, like a dream result, but how you get there, there's no idea. Things just sort of fall in front of you.
Well, the truth is, none of us know. I mean, you can plan the best you want. At the end of the day, things seem to come up. This is where the law of attraction really comes up. And I know people have seen The Secret, and they're like, oh, that's some new age bunk, or whatever the case may be. It's not new age, it's old age. There's nothing new under the sun, and it's actually pointed to in the beginning of her video, where she talks about its ancient truths that she just sort of repackaged and created for today, for today's marketplace. I would say that, when you have a concept and you begin to move towards it, things begin to happen. I had no idea that when I first started, because I had been putting off doing this speaking and coaching thing, because coaching for me is my passion and speaking is my passion. It's been the one thing that has been consistent all the way through my life, from my late teens, and not going to give away my age. But I didn't know how to do the thing, and I got to the point where I started watching friends of mine like Russell Peters, and who would have ever thunk that an East Indian comic would be the #1 comic in Canada? Like, who would have ever thunk it? I mean, we grew up together, and the odds makers would have lost a lot of money on that one, and I watched my friend Luther Brown, who's ended up being a judge on So You Think You Can Dance Canada. He started out doing step dancing back when we were at the University of Windsor together, and he would be the choreographer. Most parents would say, well, look, go get a real job. You know what I mean? What do you do? What do you mean choreographing? What is that? But now he's on TV shows with Diddy, and making the band, and he's on So You Think It's Canada. Now everybody's like, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a great thing. But that's not how it starts.
Yes.
And my buddy, a good friend of mine who I grew up with, also Little X, or Director X now. He started out doing cartoons and little artwork. He designed my flyers. I used to promote parties back in high school, right? And so I gave him his first flyer job back then. I remember when he said, I'm going to go to Hype Williams studio in New York, and I'm just going to go and take it on. And so he started out gophering, but he got a chance to meet people and show people his artwork, and then the next thing he got a chance to sit in on a video being produced. Then he got a chance to assist on a video being produced. Next thing you know, he's doing videos with people like Missy Elliott and Usher, and he's worldwide now. So my point simply is this. There isn't anything that you have in your mind that can't be turned into a moneymaker. Any idea or passion that you've got can be turned into its monetary equivalent. The question is, will you utilize your imagination and get busy and start connecting with the people, places, and things? You're either going to have excuses in this life or you're going to have results. You're not going to have both. So choose. Which one do you want? If you want results, then hang around the people who've got them, begin changing your language and your talk, and make sure your environment supports what you're doing. Some people say family and friends are not supportive. Well, find some new ones. Inherit some. I'm not saying that people should cut off their families. You know what I mean? Maybe just visit a little less and visit less and stay short a period of time. But at the end of the day, you choose where you spend your time. And you are the one who chooses ultimately every decision that you make to this point where you have everything in your life. You've made the choices that have led you to where you are. Good choices, bad choices, indifferent. You made them. And so this is the bed you've got. This is the lot you've got. The question is it where you want to be? No matter how successful somebody even appears, they're not where they want to be. The biggest room in all of our homes is the room for improvement. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is help people take that step. One of the areas is, just creating the clarity of what they want. So when I coach people, a lot of what I do is I'll help people figure out, first of all, which direction do they want to take first. Because you've got multiple things you want to do and you're being non-productive. Because to do multiple things and be successful is very challenging to do. Okay? At the beginning, you need to pick something and focus on that thing. Find out if it really is your passion. Because somebody says, well, I want to be a doctor. Well, how do you know you want to be a doctor? Have you actually hung out in a doctor's office, or have you hung out at the hospital? Maybe do an internship, or take a practice run for free. You know what I mean? And help out in that environment and see if it's really for you. And then pursue the education, right? Like this, because it makes certain that our education and your passion are aligned. I guess, and so that when you're making that investment, you're actually going to see a return. Because, I remember years ago when I was in university, I think the U of T stats were that I think it was like 60% of people who actually go in this specific area of study never actually practice in the area that they studied.
60%?
Well, it's crazy.
I thought it was just engineers that
It's crazy. Well, that's like throwing a lot. It's not just the money, it's the time. You don't get time back. Time is opportunity cost. You don't get that back. So if you're making that investment, make sure it's what you really want to do, not because it sounds nice on paper or to impress somebody else. So at the end of the day, you have to be happy with the choice that you're making, because you're the one who has to live with the reality at the end of the day. But I always say to people, some people say, well, I don't want to pursue, like for example, I was talking with a young lady from Mississauga, and she said, Noel, I really want to be a teacher. Samantha, she said she wants to be a teacher, but a teacher isn't going to provide her with the type of income that she wants. And for her, the area of teaching, she wants to teach in a school. She wants to work with kids. And I said, yeah, you can still be wealthy and be a teacher with a board of education. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, all it means is that you need to become proficient in investing, which everybody should anyway. So I said, make sure you got good credit, because that's the report card that matters the most. You know what I mean? That you need good credit. And then connect with people who know how to invest in real estate, because I know that for myself that was huge, and it's something that I really encourage people to take advantage of. And so if you, for example, are in real estate, and let's just say, for example, you picked up a property. What's the average price of a property here in the Greater Toronto area? 300,000, 350, right? Like this, right?
It's probably higher. But
higher. Well, okay, GTA outside of the Toronto
GTA.
Downtown, $500,000, right? Okay. Well, if you're talking about let's talk outskirts for a moment. If you're talking about, like, a $300,000 property or $400,000 property that you've purchased, whatever. The average market value increase has been about, on average, anywhere between 4 and 6%, depending on where you are, right? So even in this case, say it's 5 for easy math, like this, right? So on a $300,000 property, how much are you earning a year? 15 grand, right?
15,000. Yeah.
Right. I guess. Well, over the course of 3 to 4 years, because you got to sleep somewhere anyway. You know what I mean? So, so you banked, how much over 3 to 4 years? 35, 50,000, you know what I mean, in that range. You can do a refinance, you know what I mean, take cash out and go and pick up another property. So that you've got money that's growing for you there, so you've got 2 assets growing. Or you could sell your house, you know what I mean, and and go and move into another area that's newer and grow with that. The point simply is that if you buy properly for the purpose of investment, because a lot of times we buy because, I like this design, this house looks really, really nice, I really like this. You can renovate a house and make it what you want to make it. But if you are looking at it from an investment perspective like this, and you take advantage of that, over 10 to 15 years, you can literally bank over between 100 to $100,000 to $250,000 bucks. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's really just, and that's, I'm not talking about get rich quick. This is really simple methodical stuff. So with that kind of money, now you can start going into the areas of the duplexes and those types of areas, right? And you can start getting cash flow that more than surpasses your expense base, and you can retire early. So so you don't have to wait till you're 55 to retire. You can, if you're starting in your early 20s or mid 20s. I mean, you could have it done by the time you're in your mid 30s. It really just, and I have friends who have, and also in the United States, because America's on sale. And we're very happy with Obama. Keep those interest rates low, man. So we're loving it. My friend Glenn Estrabillo, he's got we do real estate in the United States, and he showed me this thing called infinite returns that he learned from Robert Kiyosaki, who's his mentor. And so what they'll do, for example, like they'll get these properties that they get in bulk, right, from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, I guess. And let's just say in Michigan, you could pick up a property for 35 grand, and it's hard to believe a single family dwelling for for 35, but yeah, you can get them. And so you put 15 into rental into that property. Well, your total investment was 50, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he showed me that once you, if you look at the comparables in the area, because I went online with him to see the actual comparables, the same properties are going for about 100 grand. Yeah, that's how the eyebrow go up. Yeah. So then what he does is, once he has the property rented out beyond 6 to 8 months or 6 months to a year, it's now considered rent stabilized. So you can go to the bank and say, look, I want a loan of 50% loan to value, right? Like this, and so which is a conservative loan, because they were doing 100%. Yeah. So that's what got him into trouble, right? And so the bank says sure. So he takes the 50 the bank lends him, takes his initial 50, puts it back in his pocket, takes the 50 the bank gives him and puts it into another property. Now the tenant covers the carrying cost of the first property plus the debt service on the 50, and he still has positive cash flow, less, but he's still got positive cash flow, and the difference between what he paid for the house and what it's worth. And no skin left in the game. And so now he's got an additional property, and he just continues rolling it over. So there's all kind of different strategies that are available for people depending on what they want to do, And so no matter what level you're at or what you're looking to create, there's always a way to do it. Somebody says, well, I don't have 50 grand. Well, then partner with 2 or 3 people. You know what I mean? You're still going to get a better rate of return than having your money sitting in the bank, because your money's sitting in the bank, rate of inflation, you're actually losing money every day. Your money is sitting on deposit. You're losing money every day. Well, I don't want to lose my money. You're losing it anyway. So it's like
it's its nature.
It's true. Like, you're losing money. Well, what does a bank do? Every time people forget, whenever you put your money on deposit in the bank, you're lending the bank money. Every time you put, I'm going to put my money in the bank, you're lending the bank money. You know, and what kind of return do they give you when you lend them? Right.
Not a lot.
Right. So we're being nice. So then, you know, well, why don't you become the bank? You know, like this, instead, and reverse the roles. Reverse the roles.
Become the landlord of the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? You know, so it's open and it's available for everybody who wants to, but you just need to be guided by the right people. You know, and so I'm fortunate. You know, I mean, Sherrod McQueen taught me what I know about real estate in Toronto. You know what I mean? He's a broker here, and I was very grateful that they get that education. And Glenn taught me about the United States, and which has been great. And I have other colleagues like Karen Singh and others that I've worked with who've been doing great things. And I always look to expand my network and find the best and the brightest minds, so that I always love being the dumbest person in the room. I love it, you know what I mean? Because I got my notepad and pen, and I'm Googling everything, and I want to make sure, you know, I want to check things out and make sure that I'm learning and I'm growing all the time. You know, it's like Tony Robbins calls it constant and never-ending improvement. You know, so if you are interested in being, regardless to what profession that you're in, you can retire. You can retire early, regardless to what passion you go after. You can get rich doing it if that's what you choose. You know, teaching doesn't have to necessarily just be done in a classroom. It can be done over the internet. You know, as we're doing today. You know, right. You know, so it can be done in a stadium. It can be done in an auditorium. It can be done anywhere you want. Education just means teaching, and educating really means teaching people. Well, by traditional means, it means one thing, but the way I've been taught what education means, it's not education isn't teaching people things that they don't know. It's teaching people to behave in a way they don't behave. You know, and so when we our goal is to help people who are in those situations take it to the next level, but also reminded that sometimes we are under the belief that only the people who aren't doing well need coaches, and that's not true. The best of the best, the most successful people you'll find have coaches, have mentors, but you got to know what the right questions to ask are. And this is why, like, we were talking, you know, before we got started about even like some financial advisors. You got some that are great, and I've got, you know, a good friend of mine, Iliad. He's doing amazing work, you know, but a lot of financial advisors that I've met, you know, a lot of them are broke and got bad credit. You know what I mean? And they're guiding people on their finances. You know, now you got to start somewhere. Like, if you just started, that's your passion, fine. But you should have. I want to know, if you don't have it, who's your example? Who are you following? You know what I mean? Whose guidance are you following? Who are they? I want to meet them. What's their portfolio look like? What situation are they in? I want to know. You know what I mean? Because if I need to be guided by somebody who knows what they're doing. So, you know, but again, you got to start someplace. So even if somebody says, well, that's why I'm not getting started, because I feel like I'm not qualified to teach people. If you have the right mentor, you know what I mean, then you can use them as a cover to start. You know what I mean? Because you're getting guidance. And so whenever you don't have the answer, you can go and get the answer. And once you tell people that there's a little bit more comfort, because, okay, as long as I'm getting the information that I need, fine. So that gives you that space where you can go and create what you want to create.
That's very good. Okay, we're going to take a break for a few minutes, and we'll continue very shortly. Okay, we're back on the Cube Talk Show, and we have Noel Walrond as our guest. So we were talking about the money mindset.
Yes.
We had a question from our audience here. You were talking about mentors. So how do you find a mentor if you don't have one? How do you go about getting started?
Call me. No. Okay, I'm partially kidding. Find somebody who's got the results that you want in your industry. Find somebody who's got the results that you want. The key is, like some people have asked me, when I signed up, with Bob Proctor to get him as a mentor, and I made, a substantial investment in my education, people thought I was nuts. And if I didn't even tell them the actual price that I actually paid, you know what I mean? I told them it was a couple grand. I didn't tell them the real cost,
Yeah.
But to me, with his wisdom and experience and my background, I can't lose. Now, some would say, well, why would you go and study from him? You don't want to be your own person. I said, I am. But he had a mentor too, Earl Nightingale, as Tony Robbins had a mentor, Jim Rohn. All the greats have mentors. Kevin Trudeau has his mentors. And nobody is self-made. People always say, well, I'm a self-made. No. Everybody's team-made. If you read a book, you read somebody else's idea, that's team-made. Whether you communicate with somebody via book, internet, ask somebody a question, got feedback, all of us needed somebody to help us, along the way in some way, shape, or form. So mentorship is extremely important in getting the guidance that is going to help to accelerate your progress and take you to the next level. So from my perspective, in terms of finding a mentor, one, when you look at what level of income do you really want to be at? Where are they at? What do they do for, what is their style like? Because there are a lot of people who are coaches, but I don't necessarily take to everybody who does what I do, So you got to make certain that there's harmony in that relationship and that you vibe well. Now, does that mean I can't learn from somebody who I don't particularly like? No, because of course you can. But if I'm going to be spending a lot of my time with somebody, I prefer it to be with somebody who I resonate with, and has the same type of energy and spirit that I want. But at the end of the day, you're trying to get the education that you want from that person. It's sort of like, when you eat, you have your digestive system. When you eat, the digestive system is designed to extract the nutrients so that your body gets what it needs, and the rest goes into the waste, right? So take what you can get, take what you need. So even if one person doesn't necessarily have everything, like Bob is great on certain areas, on the mind, on the coaching, he's incredible. Then, I went to the seminar with this guy, Joel Bauer, and from a marketing, this guy is he's incredible. So I would get mentorship from somebody like him who has the results of coaching a plethora of people who've got the results that they're after. What are the results of their other students? Do they have testimonials of the people who have they worked with before? Now, sometimes when I talk to my students and the people that I coach, I tell them, look, when you go in to ask for a mentor, sometimes sometimes be willing to pay for it if it comes to it, or volunteer. Some people say, I don't want to work for free. Well, you got to chop wood before you get fire, man. You got to put something in, and it's really not free. It's their time that they're investing in you, and so. Sometimes if you get the chance to test drive it, learn on somebody else's dime, it's great. You know what I mean? Get a sense of whether it's what you really want to do. And I tell university students all the time, because you got people into third year who haven't even declared a major yet. What? So you've got all this money. You're paying all this money to find yourself. I mean, that's an expensive process. So wouldn't it be better to take some time, to figure out what it is that you really want to do, and then sign up for the education that matches that? Because university may not be it. It may be a trade school. It may just depend on what it is that you want to do. So we don't just go for the sake of going, because things have changed. It's not the old economy where if you went to university, even that you'd be guaranteed anything. It does certainly help you. It helps you get the foot in the door. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't. And I have my degree, University of Windsor. They should be paying me for the plug, but it's okay, alumni. I love you. We got love. After going through the experience, I remember after I graduated in communications, and my dad asked me, so now you're qualified to do what exactly? And I'm like, well, gee, Dad, thanks. I appreciate it. Ask me that after I get the degree, right? So the point simply is that you need to find somebody that's got what you want. And then once you've learned from them, you can do your own spin, put your own personality. It's almost like an educator. You get a curriculum that you're given, but you can teach it in any way that you want. You know what I mean? As long as you get through the curriculum, as long as you get through it, and people learn all of the things that they're supposed to learn, put it in whatever style you want to put it in. Right? And so you get to spin it your way. So I've been learning from these greats, these giants. I mean, the first book I ever read in the world of personal growth was Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, you know, which was a shift for me. But then I also started going to these seminars, like Landmark Education. I highly recommend it. It's a great program. Millionaire Mindset, it's a great program. I mean, there's a number of them. But so in finding the mentor, find the person who's got the results that you want, you know, and spend some good quality time with them, and always offer to give something back. So whether it be assisting them or doing something, but there is no such thing as something for nothing. Contribute, give. Like, don't just come with somebody asking for a favor. Ask what can you do for them? How can you help them out? How can you help them take what they're doing to the next level? You know, and learn and grow and learn and grow. You know, and internship is one of the best ways you can do it. Kevin Liles, who is considered the best intern in America. Kevin Liles, he worked with Def Jam recordings. You know, with you know, and he interned for years and he worked for nothing for a long time. But today he's a multimillionaire, you know what I mean? Because he got a chance to learn from people like Russell Simmons, who was the owner, you know. So you need to really invest in your education. Jim Rohn used to say that, you know, if you would work harder on yourself than you even do on your job, you'd be light years ahead of where you are. Because the diameter of your thinking dictates the circumference of your activity. You can't function outside of that which you know. So, you know, and so to be in an environment through study, whether that studying is through reading, which you should, you know, auditory, listening to CDs, watching DVDs, you know, everything is going in. It's all, the programming is all going in. You never know when something's going to register and say, and you get that moment, and then you start moving forward, right? So finding the right person's key. It's key. So, and if you need help with that, email me at noel@mydreamswork.com, and I'll be happy to help you with that too. No problem at all.
It's very good. And a second question we received was about credit and leverage. Now, we know what not to do with credit and what can go wrong, but how do you do it the right way so that you can actually benefit from it? Well, one of the biggest challenges is that people look at credit cards as their money. You're forgetting that it doesn't belong to you. It's borrowed money, and you're paying it. Well, the interest rate only matters if you don't pay it back within the 30 days. You know, so if you pay it back within a reasonable period of time, you don't pay any interest anyway. So the interest rate really doesn't matter, right? If you're using it properly. The other state is that I don't know that I would. It depends on the rate of return you're getting on the investment, you know. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not licensed, you know. I'm not giving out financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes only. What my recommendation is that you always want to find the cheapest money possible, and if you can get a place where you're getting, as long as the return outweighs what you're putting out, it's worth it. You know what I mean? And right now in Canada, you know, the interest on a loan for the purpose of investment is tax deductible, right? So if you do a home equity line of credit or that type of thing, the interest payments on that are tax deductible, right? So you can actually reduce your taxes by taking advantage of these opportunities. But my thing is, pick the person who's going to be helping you with the investments very selectively. Like, I'm fortunate, I know some very good people. I've been connected with some very, very good people. You really want to know what their portfolio is. The guys who I'm talking to, they've got serious portfolios. They're doing really good work. They got integrity, and they do business properly, right? Which is what I want to be working around. And so leveraging, the key in my mind is making certain that you're earning more than what's going out through that investment. So if you can't do that through a leveraged investment, now, for example, can you do negative cash flow on something and still make money? Yes, because if you're talking about a short-term investment, like over 18 months or 12 to 18 months, and let's just say, for example, it had been pre-construction in Toronto. You know, because the pre-construction is done very well downtown, the condo market, right? Now, if you were investing, let's just say it was the debt service on the loan that you took was like $100 a month, or you know, I mean, or $200 a month. Well, if your market value increase in your property over that time is if you're going to make 50 grand on a property, you know, or 40 grand on a property, but it costs you 10,000 investment, or even 20,000 investment, is it worth it? Well, of course, it's 100% return, right? You know what I mean? So it comes down to what makes the most sense for where you're at. But the key is that first property is making certain that if you're renting is like standing on a street corner handing out $100 bills. You're just giving it away. It's like,
You know, like this, I mean, there are certain instances which renting is okay. You know, it's a temporary stay, fine. But really and truly, you're better off teaming up with 3 or 4 people, buying a property together, even if you got to put 3 or 4 grand in a piece each. Get the property, get some equity, and split it at the end of the day, and at least get something to show for your investment. But I think that the idea of renting, it's like, unless you're doing a rent to own or lease to own situation, I don't know why one would do it. You know, it's something where you want to own, and even people who are in business, we like to own where we operate. You know, so it's even if it's small, own it. You know, get that equity, because you got to show up to work somewhere anyway. You got to go home to sleep somewhere anyway. So right now is the best time for leveraging in terms of mortgage money, because it's never these interest rates are not going to stay low forever. They are going back up, and it's never been this low since the Great Depression. We've never seen interest rates like this. So take advantage of it, because the window of opportunity is closing for sure.
Okay, one last question, which I think we've talked about throughout with the mentors and finding yourself, but if you don't know what your dream is, how do you find it? This might take days to figure out, but
no, it doesn't. It takes minutes. And if people come to the Creation Zone this Saturday like this, I work through people. I help people in minutes figure it out. Look, at the end of the day, what would you do for free? You know, most of the times some people have multiple areas of passion. Which one do I start with first? How do I know which one to go with first? Go with the one that you can monetize within 90 days first. You know, try it out first. The one that you can start earning money with first. Why? If you don't start earning an income with something, or you don't see it in sight, it becomes very difficult to stay true to the process and to continue with it. So out of all those areas that you've got, I find, because I get people to draw a list of all the things that they absolutely love, then I look at, well, what kind of a lifestyle do you want to live? You know, and because that in large measure dictates the way in which they're going to do what they're going to do. So, for example, somebody says, I'm good with 60, 70 grand a year or 50 grand a year, and they want to teach. Okay, well, in the classroom is fine. Well, if you want to make $1 million a year teaching, well, you may need to do what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It just depends on, you know, the form that you want to do it in. Maybe you may want to package it and teach something online. There's all kind of different mediums today. You know what I mean? That our game, that equalize, like the internet is the equalizer. You know, so pick the top 3 of that big list of the things that you like. Look at the income level that you'd like to earn. Then you find, well, how could I do this? You know, and then start looking at, well, are you the person who wants to run a business, or do you prefer to work for people? Because not everybody is cut out to be an entrepreneur. You know, and that's fine. The game plan should be then, well, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to earn, because in some cases some people may earn less doing the thing that they love to do. Well, how can I balance that out by getting good investments? You know what I mean? So financial literacy, you can't get past it. You can't get past it. You got to learn like this. And even if you have a genius who is an advisor, you still need to know enough so that you can ask the right questions. A fool and their money will soon part. This is all about the conditioning, right? The same way that you were conditioned not to like it, you can be conditioned to like it. Just turn it into a fun exercise. Pick up that cash flow game with Robert Kiyosaki's. That'll get you pick up Monopoly. Remember that back in the day. Get something. Get started to get into that mindset. So pick the one that you can start with in 90 days. If you're already doing what you love to do, then it's about taking it to the next level, and I work people through that concept as well. But finding the passion, we all innately already know, because when I coach people, I start asking them a series of questions, you know what I mean, and they start answering the questions on, well, what do you really like to do, and what do you like to how do you like to spend your spare time, and how do you like this to look, and then we sort of look at the common themes that keep coming up, and then from that we can isolate, okay, this looks like the area, right, and then all of a sudden you see the smile come on, that's when you know we're on track, you know, and then from that point, it's like, okay, so we want to start setting out a plan for ourselves, so that this is not just a wishful thinking thing, but it is a dream, because the difference between the two is a plan and an intention to act, you know. So you start getting in. My immediate thing is find somebody who's doing it now like this, so that you can get a mentor. Find somebody that you can pattern after and mentor, you know, who's already doing it. Go volunteer and go see if it's really what you want to do. You know, and then and you're gonna, as you're going through the process, you're gonna find, okay, this is fine. And why do I say it's so important to test it? Oprah, when it was first suggested to her that she should become a talk show host, she was insulted by the idea. Because she's, I'm a journalist, I'm a respected journalist. What do you mean? Talk show host? That's not for me. I'm a journalist. Well, but when she sat in that seat, she fell in love, and the rest is history, right? So sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't. Until you actually do it, you're not going to know. Watching somebody else do it is not doing it yourself. So you won't know if it's going to be fulfilling until you try it. So I would also advocate dream building and start going out. So I don't know how much time we have left, but are we okay?
A couple of minutes.
You got a couple minutes? Okay. So start doing the research online, start going out and dream building, start looking at the things that you want to have that are in your life. So it could be the house or the car and those type of things. It could also be, wanting to have an enriched relationship with family. So start prioritizing putting more time into your family, because whatever you focus on expands, right? So start putting the focus in that area, and things begin to show up. Now, I know that as soon as you have that idea in your mind, then you say, okay, this is what I want to do. Fear inevitably pops up in terms of taking the first step. I get it. You need to get leverage. So when you start talking with somebody who will be supportive of that dream or that idea, start hanging around, getting somebody who's supportive, say, look, you know what, I made a decision, I'm going to do X. Hold me to this. Don't let me quit. Don't let me stop. Just keep pushing me, and that helps. You know what I mean? When you got a workout buddy, or if you have somebody who they have their dream too, and you have your dream, now you guys can mastermind together. Join the mastermind groups, meetup groups, and start connecting with other people who are entrepreneurs too, who want to create something, or people who are just looking to create that dream job, whatever it happens to be. But get active. Nothing happens till you do something. So you got to get busy. Get out there and start making it happen. And then you're going to start finding that you're going to start bumping into people and places and things to help it become real. So this Saturday, we're having this event called the Creation Zone, where I'm actually going to be bringing out local success stories to share how they made it to where they are, and so people can get a chance to learn from them. And you see that they're people just like you and I, right? Like this, who've come. In fact, one of them, she's coming. She's actually an author. She just turned 26, and she started in real estate at the age of like 23, and she made 6 figures in her first year. She's doing well in her book. Inside of its first couple of months, she's done over 15,000 sales in her books. So she's done quite well. That's so deep. And I've got another gentleman who's coming to share his story. He's a successful accountant. He's ingenious. Oh my God, he's incredible. And it's going to be a great story. But he's bought and sold businesses. But he started from nothing and he built it up. And he's going to share how he did. And he's become a multi-millionaire, having the garages where you have the cars that go on top. Inside the garage, so you got the 2-level garage type situation. I mean, that's the lifestyle that he's come from and lived from. And so he's going to be able to share that. I'm also going to be speaking live that night and coaching people on how to make their passions become real, or take things to the next level, so people can actually see what I'm talking about live right there. That night too, there's going to be a networking power hour. It's a totally free event. Go to mydreamswork.com, mydreamswork.com, say it with me, and click on register. And get your seat. It's a complimentary event. We're almost full. So if you're going to do it quick, get it done. And the theme is beating procrastination, the #1 dream killer. Who procrastinates? Everybody on something. So we're gonna be dealing with procrastination this Saturday. It's at the Ontario Bar Association, 20 Toronto Street. But when you go onto the website, go to mydreamswork.com and click on register. All the information is there. There's also some videos there, so you can see some of the previous events and see some of the content that we've covered. So we're all ready. This Saturday, it's going to be a powerful day.
Okay, so I usually ask for contact information. I think you've pretty much.
I think we covered that. Awesome.
Do you want to give an email address out?
Sure. You can email me at noel@mydreamswork.com. That's Noel, like Christmas, @mydreamswork.com. See, it's like Christmas every day with me, right? Joyeux Noël, every day. That's about the extent of my French. I'm working on it, though. I'm working on it.
Okay, very good.
And Joe, I just want to applaud you, you know what I mean, for going after your passion, because, we had a chance to talk a little bit before we started the program, and I think it's always inspiring to see people who aren't just talking talking about it, but who are doing it. And because you're doing it, you're creating a space where other people can get the benefit of that education. So, so congratulations and thank you. And I understand you signed up for the Creation Zone, didn't you?
I did.
So we're going to see you there on Saturday.
I will be there. Yeah.
Bring some friends, man. Bring them. Facebook, Twitter, get it out there. Let's go. Let's pack the house, raise the roof, and get inspired. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Good.
So that's our show for this evening. You could watch this show, the Cube Talk Show, on thatchannel.com. It's also on my website, which is www.joetheinvestor.ca. To contact me, my email is joetheinvestor.today@gmail.com. And you can also see the upcoming guests for my show on my website under the Cube Talk Show upcoming guests. Thanks very much and have a good evening.